Hello and welcome to Fair Rugby on Fair Sport. Today's Six Nations review. Ireland with the Grand Slam and actually just 1 point away from a perfect 28-point haul that you can get in the Six Nations. So just because they didn't get that bonus point against Scotland, they've come 1 point short of the perfect Six Nations tournament. But also France back to their best, I think, and looking very good. And Scotland, who I think are going to be a bit of a dark horse side moving forward, look very impressive at stages of the tournament. And once again, maybe a tournament where you look at the results and they're not far away from the best teams, but just maybe struggling with that consistency. Italy with another wooden spoon, unfortunately, didn't manage to take a step forward the Six Nations, despite a couple of reasonable performances throughout the championship. Before we look at the title of championship, please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. We'll start by looking at some of the results, shall we? And we have to take it all the way back to week one, shall we? Where Ireland really sort of stamped their authority down on the tournament with an early 34 points to 10 victory against Wales, who were just blown away in that first half. A reminder of this, obviously that brilliant victory from Scotland against England, and then France, who were actually put, quite close against Italy. And on this, I think we already saw that we're going to have an exciting Six Nations, because already we saw how Scotland was a team to look out for. We saw that Ireland were back to their best. We saw that Wales potentially going to struggle. We also saw that maybe England aren't up there, and that Italy were going to show a bit of fight. So I think this was a very good precursor, really, as to what did then eventually unfold. This was always going to be the big game, wasn't it? Number one versus number two in the world. It was always going to be about which side won that game, was probably going to be the side to win the Six Nations. And it was the case. And I think that, I was a little bit critical of France. I just said that I don't think that they were at their most accurate best. And again, you only play as well as you're allowed to play. And I thought that Ireland was superb that day. But I did think there were just a couple of uncharacteristic aspects of the French game, which we didn't see in the last stages of the game from them. But that was the defining moment, wasn't it? That was Ireland really showing that they are the best team in the world right now, and that, they can live up to the expectations. So that was a big moment, as was this. Scotland just absolutely demolishing Wales and showing, and I mean, they had a Six Nations Grand Slam on track at one stage before losing their last couple. And then England bouncing back nicely against Italy. Although second half performance, Italy did manage to come back. Just didn't have enough much against Steve Borthwick's side. The third round was an interesting one, because we saw Italy playing against an Irish rotated side, and yet put in a really strong performance and really sort of go toe to toe with one of the best sides in the world. I think Italy are tactically just a little bit naive at times. I think that they've got some phenomenal attacking shape and they can create a lot of different chances, but maybe aren't willing to do sometimes, the traditional test match things, which they might need to in terms of game management and being able to give themselves the best opportunity at winning games. Ireland, they got the job done once again, to continue marching. This was an important win for England, despite it being a bit of a bore fest. Probably the worst game of the Six Nations from an entertainment factor. And then Scotland with a very nice sort of comeback in that second half, just not being able to get over the line in the end. But once again, it was, it took a late try actually for France to sort of get to that scorecard. So it looked like Scotland were making a bit of a comeback. And, they've shown signs, Scotland, once again, maybe a little bit like Italy at times, where they just find that 80-minute performance. I think they can beat most teams in the world, but they just didn't manage to do it all the time. The fourth round was the Battle of the Wooden Spoon, with Wales beating Italy. It was a much better Welsh performance. I think that they sort of went back to basics, and I think they kind of just sort of stuck to their strength. We then saw this incredible result, and I think England are still smarting a little bit. I think their performance against Ireland in the final round will maybe alleviate some of the pressure, but at the end of the day, they did still get absolutely taken apart by France, and that's going to raise a lot of eyebrows. We then saw, once again, this was Scotland's opportunity to try and make a big statement, and to try and push Ireland. And it was the only time Ireland didn't score a bonus point. And her first half performance was brilliant from Scotland. They were really in the game. And then just a couple of tries conceded in the second half were the difference. And then in the fifth round, Scotland taking on Italy. It was Italy's last chance to maybe just show something, but Scotland getting there in the end. Wales actually looked a lot better in this game, to be honest. Wales actually looked like a half-decent side. Unfortunately, France was just far too good, and we saw France in the last 2 weeks. That was the France we've been waiting for, the France that maybe we didn't see when they played against Ireland, and a lot of that's because of the way Ireland played, but also I just think France sort of grew throughout the Six Nations, and where it didn't really hit the ground running as much as an Ireland did. And then Ireland had to work very hard for this 29-16 win against England. That red card definitely making a difference in the latter stages of the game. But if we have a look at the log, and this is how it all sort of looked in the end there. So Ireland, let's say 1 point away from that perfect 28 points. So basically, it's obviously 4 points for a win. So you get 20 points if you win all games. Then there's 5 bonus points up for grabs for scoring 4 tries or more. And if you win the Grand Slam, you get 3 additional points. And that's basically so that, you're almost guaranteed to win the Six Nations. That, even if you, win without bonus points, there's not going to be another side who can beat you whilst not having won every game. So it's basically to ensure that if you win the Grand Slam, you will win the Six Nations. So that kind of takes the bonus points part away. France second place with 20 points. Just the one game that they did lose. Scotland losing to France and Ireland, beating England, Wales, and Italy, getting 15 points there from them. 3 bonus points. England with just the 2 wins. It's a pretty poor showing from them, isn't it? Especially when you think that this is a side who I think a lot of people are expecting to go quite far in the World Cup, and were in the World Cup final a couple of years ago. But very much a bit of pressure on, I think, for Steve Borthwick and his side. Wales were pretty torrid the entire tournament, and Warren Gatland basically used it as an experiment to sort of see exactly where his squad's at. And unfortunately, I think he's had a lot more questions than maybe answers, although the last couple of weeks maybe were a bit better for them. And then Italy, they showed a lot of heart, but I think I think we now have to start having the conversation that Italy are better than a side that show heart. They're better side in the 13th. They actually need to start winning games. They need to start finding those results. The performances are fun to watch, and they are a cool side to watch, but they're better than this. They can win games, and they're not. And I don't know if it's a switch they can sort of flick, and they can just start to win a couple of games. It's about maybe belief, but they're good enough to compete at the highest levels, but they're just not. So I think what we've learned is that Ireland are the number 1 side of the world undoubtedly, but France are back. They are one of the best sides in the world. There can be anyone out there, I do believe. And I think they're going to be a big sort of favourites going into the World Cup. But let me know what you thought about the Six Nations down in the comments below. Please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Stephen. I'll chat to you soon.